Thank you very much, John. The new systems which will be delivered to Arizona and the system coming up is getting upgraded into a totally very much more advanced. We added new generation to it. We'll explain that when the units arrive. And we have already given a lot of hints how they're going to be. But generally, systems should be able to be dedicated to a given job. For a cancer, for fibromyalgia, even we can specify it to a given cancer. And in that process, we can advance in a direct approach into all diseases. The reason I came here tonight is very simple. As we explained in the teaching on Thursday, as you most probably all know, next Friday, there'll be a final arrangement for the Iranian Keshe Foundation to meet with you as a North American Keshe Foundation, and the reciprocal from Keshe Foundation US to Iran on Monday in Farsi teaching. It is important to realize that in both presentations from Iranian side to come to you, and then on Monday when hopefully Keshe Foundation North America goes to Iran, it's on the eve of American elections. And we have been told even today that to expect Iranian high-ranking officers from the government and officials will be online to listen and not to interfere, but we have started negotiating with the Iranians directly on the terms that the Keshe Foundation meetings across the world with US, with China, and then with the end of the week, end of the month with the Israelis has to become a flag bearing of the peace and on exchange of the technology for Corona for Iran and from Iran, and equally to all the Keshe Foundations worldwide. We are looking in a way forward to make the first bridges with the American administration through either way, whoever might be. As you know, we received the same kind of call today from the American administration that one of the first calls President Trump expects to receive if he gets reelected will be from Iran. A lot of work has been done in the background to achieve this. And in so many ways, we don't see Trump to be the next president, but if he will be, the work is cut out for many, many things. And we see the next week meeting be a neutral ground in a way as we meet as knowledge seekers, but very important for the Iranian government officials. We know the American officials will be online in the background, whatever they might come in. And so what I would like to ask, I try to be present in the next week, and please keep the discussion to Corona and In no shape or form, even Iranian officials appear, we've requested them to, if they want to speak, they have a freedom to do. It has a political orientation that Iran and the Iranian government, both in leadership and the rest, are looking through the Keshe Foundation to establish international connections scientifically. And we have to understand this. We are at deep discussions. I spent nearly 3 hours today with, on the same line, trying to make sure that we stay scientific, even though you might get provocation or be provoked in the Iranian side on Monday by some others, to stay within the structure of the scientific teaching. And in a way, we're using the Keshe Foundation technology as means to establish connection as one nation, that we are connected to most of the nations around the world through our technology, and we can deliver such a thing. And we are looking literally for Monday teaching, and especially the Chinese teaching 14 days later, and with the meeting with Israelis and Hebrews, to start a dialogue of peace through new technology. And it's very important for us as Keshe Foundation that this is one of chance we're going to get. First of all, to push with the world leaders, and secondly, through technology and exchange for peace. Iranian leadership, from Ayatollah Khamenei down to heads of Sepah, joint armed forces, heads of the military, and those who are connected with the Keshe Foundation and support Keshe Foundation at the highest level within the administration of the Iranian government will be present online, both on Sunday and Monday. And we know from our conversations, and I have invited them, if they want to make a statement, they are free to come in. But please be aware, there is a lot of agitation that sits around, especially with the Americans, and you might get very nice welcomes too. So this is where I came, because the next Friday, when next time you'll have the Iranian Keshe Foundation, maybe for half an hour, whatever you decide. Me using these interactions between Iran and other knowledge seeker groups around the world, and interconnected, like what we saw on Friday between Brazil and Romania, to become point of exchange and in a way leading the science and technology. And if we get any more news, will, of course, will be explained by the Iranian team to you before the teaching. Thank you very much.
Now, it's this week, as I understand it, that the Knowledge Seekers Workshop will be moved to the 2 p.m. time
Yes.
frame. That
Yes, just this week, yes.
Just this week, thank you.
We have official commitments that I cannot be available, so we moved it to 2 o'clock. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe, for bringing all of this possible. I'm very confident that we can meet with your wishes there, because we all share the same, and we will continue to make our efforts at the highest level possible.
what we can do, especially we need the support of the Hebrew or language of for the Israeli to knowledge seekers on the what I call the last weekend of November. And one thing we are getting sure, maybe 90%, Iranian government officials will make an announcement in respect to Israel. And I see that quite 90% possible. And we have requested accordingly, if they want to make such a gesture, has to be on the basis of the new technology and no rhetoric or political dimension. But as I said to the Iranian leadership today, taking steps like this needs a lot of guts. And as we say in English, we need to have what we call huge confidence. And I see that within the Keshe Foundation, that we can take that step because it can bring peace to many nations and many families. And it's our responsibility to do so if we can so. And in so many ways, we are fortunate, we are privileged, we've been given the honor to be able to serve this way, to bring nations to speak to each other. And we bring cultures to each other. And as I said to the officials today, steps like this, so big, needs a big man to take it. And we are big enough to take it. And confidence in technology. And as I said to the officials, sometimes you have to take what we call a cup of poison for you to see it's not that bad as you think, and you can still survive it. And either way, we have to. And as we've seen, American administration knows we have moved towards Israel. We knows we have moved to the American administration we think who is going to be in power. And this gesture we've seen is a response to Iran to be ready to make the next move with the nations, not with governments. And we are spearheading it in so many different ways. But as I said, moves like this needs a lot of confidence, a lot of knowing that you can succeed, and even if it fails, at least you have done your best, and we are in that position now. I have taken huge risks, not only for myself, but for the foundation, in trying to bring the Keshe Foundation Iran in line and in communication directly into Tel Aviv at such a point. We can pay heavy for it, good way, or we can pay heavy for it, bad way. But men of what we call resolute to their belief always can take these steps. I'm resolute. We stand there to exchange peace and prosperity for knowledge and technology. And I've got deep belief that this is the right move to put in such a position, such a time, the nation of Iran citizens with the nation of Israel online with Americans, because you have to be there. As you understand, America is considered to be part owner, and Israel is considered as the 52nd state of United States. And we need to be both the Americans and the Israelis on that day to make sure the message is that we unite, and we unite through technology and knowledge. It's a huge risk. This end of the month meeting between the Keshe Nation, Hebrew or Israeli group and Iran, and it puts my life directly in line of danger and being more or less be murdered, because the Iranians are very strong in disbelief with Israel, but it's a step we have to take. It's a step. It's our duty to take with the new technology we have brought. But we have found people who in Iran have alleged their allegiance to us today at a high level, that they'll go with us just to see if there's a possibility, and that is a huge gain what we received today. I will see what happens, but on Friday, or what they call, we tried to do it on a Sunday, the last Sunday of the month, or maybe because Friday, Saturday we have the Jewish what we call Sabbath, which is cannot be done. Jesus on Sunday might interfere or interact with your time or be prior your time. That'll be around the teaching between Iran and Israel, and we would like to appreciate if that Sunday we merge your teaching with the Hebrew language. We'll let you know as we progress. But in that meeting, we know, as I said, head of Sepah military forces, Officer Ayatollah Khamenei, officials, Iran joint forces, heads of joint forces will be online in the background. And how we conduct the presentation will bring them on direct layout of their belief, how they see us too, and maybe a beginning of a dialogue. We use the nationals to start a negotiation with nations. Thank you very much.
And we know you've been successful with this in Northern Ireland. We know you've been successful with this in the 5+1 in negotiations with Iran. And we know you'll be successful in these efforts. And we thank you very much.
This time is all of us. And it's a huge step. It's a huge step because you have to understand fanaticism, which sits in Iran against Israel. I have accepted a position in Iran that brings me in these lines from now on. And as one of my first duties in the position I've accepted is to create science and technology to be leading the nations and not politics. Leading as accepting this and what we call, it's more or less presidency through technology. And we present it this way to make the next step. I know exactly what that meeting when Hebrew language people are in Iran will be. Many people will be listening, and we are ready to make an announcement in conjunction with the support of the Office of His Eminence Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran. As I've asked, is Keshe Foundation would put out the hand of peace and what I call the olive branch to the both nations to use the Keshe Foundation as an intermediary to start negotiations. We have made it very clear for both nations. Our position is very clear. But we can take that chance, and it's worth taking the chance.
Thank you for your training in diplomacy.
We have to. As I said many times, I've been trained by some of the most elite diplomats and politicians in the world as heads of nations and ministers and prime ministers of the world. Close friendships teaches you a lot. But now we have to take a step. The step between Iran and Israel and consequent peace talks, which might follow, will bring peace talk between China and Russia and Iran with US. We don't fight. We negotiate from the point of strength of technology, and to do that, in the coming days, Keshe Foundation will reveal one of the most powerful technologies around the world. A number of technologies will be released in more or less rapid speed to bring and force peace. Technologies never been seen, technologies which has been a dream of the man.
Mr. Keshe, this is Yvonne. Can we get cooperation between everybody to stop the corona?
I had this discussion about an hour ago with two knowledge seekers, and the only way we can stop the corona, the progress of corona, the way we see it, first of all, 95% of the data is fake. Worldwide data is absolutely 95% fake.
I realize it's not trustworthy, the data, but there are people dying and people are being shut down and losing their jobs.
Let me explain something to you very interesting. Less people have died in the past 8 months, 9 months from corona than flu. The data is tampered with because we see, as I explained to knowledge seekers tonight, we see, and I'm sure most of you understand, you see the same as we do, corona is a statistical pressure to bring world control, to enforce injections, and then to decide if you can shop, if you can breathe, if you haven't paid your taxes, if they want to put you in prison, if you say something nobody likes. You got to understand how corona has been sold and why governments are going with it. Corona has been sold on the basis of power to the leadership. It means whichever leaders accepts to let injections to be done, they will stay in charge because there'll be no opposition, because opposition will be controlled through injection. It is security control of the nation, which is keeping the world leaders quiet and letting it happen. They've been promised that all citizens will be obedient to them. There'll be no need for elections, because if anybody opposes to election, we'll simply eliminate it by press of a button on the digit which carries in your blood. It is literally a process of control, and world leaders have been promised that they will stay in power if it happens. You will see most of the world leaders who get through 2021 will stay in power lifetime. Kingship by control of population. This is the overall plan. That there will be never opposition. And then even these world leaders will obey by the rules laid out by those who control the injections. This is what people don't understand. Control of population and control of people is the only plan of this corona, nothing else. Once by 2021 injections completed, literally everybody is a telephone number, and you don't obey, Telephone number will give the code and you're dead. That's all the plan is. It's not the slavery, but it's controlling everything their society wants. And what we see is literally continuous leadership by those who lead. And that's what they've been promised. You stay leaders for life. And they have bought it. We will not see elections. We will not see free elections. We will not see all sorts of things. You will see very much as you go through metal detectors, supermarkets, train stations, banks, even your bakery will carry a system that if you don't carry the injection in your body, which is computer controlled, you cannot shop. You cannot get on the train, you cannot apply. And I assure you one thing, Keshe Foundation will respond to this in a very, very near future. I think those of you who understood what I say, you should have listened on Thursday. I already given a lot of hints what is about to happen.
Well, I'm happy that Keshe Foundation realizes all of this. It's something I've realized for quite a long time with all the different things adding up.
Controlling the population is the only purpose.
It's not a very nice situation, but it's something I think we all have to face, what is going on.
We do not disclose anything in any shape or form.
Please don't.
But it's part of what we understand is about to happen, and this is why I have accepted position as I've accepted. As I said, a new style of leadership, a new style of presidency, will emerge in the coming weeks and months.
In the UK, withholding the free meals from the children from poor families for the coming time, I thought was particularly hard and cruel.
I keep quiet. I lived in that country 29 years. So I can imagine what is about and what they want to do with this. Those who held the money for the food with the first families will be pushed to take the injections. They're starting from bottom top. You should have seen it. You want to be given food, you accept the injection to make sure your child does not get it. These figures are all made up. If you listen to a news television station today in one of the European countries, a village of 780 odd, according to government, had 770 citizens of it with corona. And 7 people have actually have an infection. All the data are fake. And they're moving from village to village that nobody finds out. But today has been opened up in news that how fake the figures are. Anyway, we'll see what happens. We try to keep a lot of things away from public, but Keshe Foundation will deliver a massive punch in the next coming time. That we don't see there'll be any need for a lot of things which are happening.
God be with you on that, Mr. Keshe. God be with you.
Be with us. As I said to knowledge seekers, most probably, the only organization and the only thing which will change this course sits with the foundation. Not out of arrogance, but knowing what we have and what we are about to deliver. But still, we have to be very cautious.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Keshe.
Mr. Keshe, I would like to ask about the next week's meeting with the Iranian community on Sundays and Mondays. I am very comfortable and understand how to interact with our Iranian knowledge seekers. I do not really understand how to interact with government officials that may or may not come in or be listening, because they have such a different mindset and agenda.
Let me explain to you something very direct. Till 1979, both Iranian and American have the same agenda. The agenda changed when Vatican decided. The agenda changed when the growth of Islamic power became a threat to Vatican. The people of both nations never changed. And more or less, the love of both nations and their citizens in respect to each other never changed. US has accepted millions of Iranians, have given them home and refuge, and they're part of your nation. There are second generation and some third generation, which are born there out of the revolution. So we never changed. Nothing changed except the politic on both sides. The citizens stayed the same, feel the same pain, have the same joy. And there is many joyful times and things which has happened between both nations. And a lot is made up to sell arms. And as I said, your misunderstanding of the politics of Middle East is what you see on CNN. And as I said to the Iranian officials, as we are taking control of part of the structures of the Iranian nation leadership through Keshe Foundation and technology of Keshe Foundation in respect to many things, we are laying down the terms. We will bring the negotiations in every aspect, is to understand that in so many ways, the time for what we call military superiority is finished. And in so many ways, as then there was never a problem between the two nations, except on the paper which it was selling arms. We have no problems. Your leaders on a Friday and on a Sunday and a Monday, they're busy in how to get elected. But at the same time, they will listen to this program because Obama did. And you know that on his election day, we had the communication from them. And it won't be any different. But the only thing which you have to realize, and has made it worse, that Iranians are this and that, was the speeches made by Ahmadinejad in the United Nations and around the world in respect to Israel, which put Iran in this position. But you have to understand, the speeches he made were written in Tel Aviv, they were not written in Tehran. He was a parrot reading of a script which was given by Tel Aviv for him to read. I explained that to the Iranian leadership clearly in my recent communication with Iran. Because every time he made the speech, he got paid in his bank account in Tel Aviv. Most probably Ahmadinejad is the only Iranian leader who's got a Jewish bank account. Because he's paid in Israel and is kept by the Israelis for his account. I have been very open about this. And that's why you have a fear nothing going to be done. These speeches were written for him, and the amount of arms they sold to Middle East, he got the commission out of it, both from the American and Israelis. 200 million deals for defense technology for Saudi. He's collected something like 20 million commission.
And while oil was still in fashion, that was a great way to raise the price of oil, getting the two parties to threaten each other.
Yes, of course. Ahmadinejad and all the rhetoric you saw out of Iran during his 8 years of work, every single speech he gave in United Nations, every speech he went and he gave in Iran, the list of Iranian nuclear physicists he gave to Israel to be executed, they were bombed, he got paid for it. The citizens of both nations, even the citizens of Israel, 30% of Israeli nation is Iranian descent. And this is what I convey to the Iranian leadership. Because now we speak directly into the leadership. We don't speak to somebody to speak to. And in that process, I made it very clear that we have to make a step. And that step has to come from Iran. The same blood, the same Iranian blood is dying in Tel Aviv from what's so-called corona as the one in Iran. There's no difference. The same as in the United States. And as I said, I've taken a huge risk to my personal life and to what happens in the foundation, primarily by establishing this. But it needs a what I call big courage and big heart to be able to do this. And we have taken the step, there is no return.
Well, I hope we can support you appropriately.
We're all there doing our best. As I said to the Iranian Keshe, we're ready to teach the Hebrew language in the Jewish community in Tel Aviv how you're succeeding in Iran with Corona. We'll see. You got to understand there is a lot of background into my life in Iran and a lot of things which goes against the grain of Iranian culture. But up to now, the governments of Iran has accepted to technology and delivery of the technology they have the benefit of. If it was any other time, they wouldn't tolerate it. Because they know what the steps I take is for the good of Iran and the good of the Middle East and internationally good for both of the nations. Except those who sell arms. Anyway, thank you very much. And hopefully we have a very nice meeting next week and end of this month, both with American and American Hebrew, or we call Israeli. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe. I want to thank all the attendees on the panel today for allowing us to make the presentation today. It was really a wonderful meeting. And I want to thank everyone for their presence in bringing peace to this world. Over to you, Mark.